Hello everyone and welcome once again to another exciting tutorial on how to answer a Cambridge Pass question, AS and A level. And this time around we are concentrating on the May-June 2021 practical paper 4. So let's dive right into the question and see what we've got. So task 1, it says use suitable graphic software to create a vector drawing to match this shield. So looking at this question, basically we are supposed to draw a shield and provide an outer shield as well, and some studs, means like the rivets that hold the shield together. And in these boxes we've been given a description of a graphical description of how each element should look like. So we are going to dive right into Illustrator and start work. But before then, let's look at the other questions. Okay, after this we are required to save our image as an SVG, scalable vector graphics. And part 2 of the task will require us to draw a lightning bolt, which has also been described. And then we have to put both the shield and the lightning bolt together and save as well. Then in task 2 we move into the animation aspect, where we transport or export our shield into our animation software and add our digits and pops to do the required animation. So it's basically like a shield trying to prevent the red zeros and ones from going through, and as soon as the red zeros and one touches the shield, the pop up or the pop design that has already been pre-designed and has been provided in the source files would have to show. So in the source files for this question we have the digits, the zeros and ones, and then we have this pop PNG or the star-like shape. So let's go back to task 1 and dive right into Illustrator and get this done. Testing. So we are here in tutorial testing. So we are here in Illustrator and we are about to begin. I'll be intermittently switching between the Illustrator page and the question paper so as to make sure that we get everything right. And in an exam situation, I advise that you save your work at least every 5 minutes so that you don't lose your work in any case of eventuality. Okay, so let's begin. So to draw the shield, you press Control. Let's create a grid first, which will help us as a guide. So I'll press Control and then apostrophe to have this grid. Now I'm going to pick the pen tool and try and draw the shape of the shield. So if I've selected my pen tool now, I'm going to ensure that I don't have an outline, so I'm going to switch off the outline and I'm just going to give it a random fill color, which we will later change, and then I'll come to the artboard and start drawing. So I'm done with the first half of the shield, and I need to deal with the curves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the direct selection tool, which is just under the selection tool, or A, and select this bottom half corner. Just drag and ensure that this bottom half corner is selected, and then drag it in all the way so you have the bottom curve. Now there's another curve at the top here which we are going to deal with, but with that I'm going to pick the curvature tool and create a point here, and then and drag it down a little bit so that I have this curve as well. Now we have one half of the shield done. Now let's have a look at what we have. This one looks a bit elongated here on this side, so let's correct that. So to do that, I'm going to press Ctrl Z so that I get back to this particular position, and I'm going to use the direct selection tool once again. Select only the bottom corner and drag it up a little bit. And then I'm going to select this corner once again and drag it all the way in, not too much, just a little bit like this, and use the curvature tool at the top half again, click and drag it in a little bit so that you have this curve. Now we can duplicate this by just going to Object, Transform, Reflect. And make sure you select the vertical option and press a preview so that you have a preview of what you will get, and then press copy. Now just hold Shift and drag the created one to your right so that you have a full shape. They are still separate though, so what you need to do is to unite them. You can use the Pathfinder here and then press on Unite here, or as you have both selected, you can use the Shape Builder tool or Shift M and then just click and drag across both so you have one shape. Now we have a shield and then an outline, or a shield and an outer portion of the shield, which we call the rim. So the yellow part is called the rim, and then we have the panel in the inside. So to recreate another one, all we need to do is to duplicate what we have, and at this point I'm going to switch off the grid, and to do that is to press Ctrl and then the apostrophe key again, and I'm going to increase the size of the shield so that we can have a better look. Next, I'm going to duplicate the shield by going to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste in front. And I'm going to reduce the size of the one in front by holding down Alt and Shift whilst I drag it down a bit. So to bring a little differentiation, now I'm going to change the color to gray so that we know that, okay, this is the panel and this is the rim. So now let's deal with the actual colors of both. So with the rim, we actually need a gradient, because if you look at it, you have this gold, light gold, and then it goes down to a very dark gold gradient. So actually, if you take a closer look, you see there's a light gold up here, and then there's another version of a gold here, and then we have the darker one way down the rim. So let's begin with the light gold. To bring up the color picker, just double click on this on the fill, and then you get a color picker. So let's pick our gold. Now let's go straight into the gradient panel. So you see the color you picked over here, and then just click and drag it into the slider. We are going to need 3 colors, with the lightest one starting. So I'm going to take off the white one and then bring this one to the beginning, just like this. Now I'm going to change the angle to a -90, so our lighter version starts from the top, and then I need to add, we're going to add another one, so I click and add another one, and this one is going to be a bit darker, so I can pick that from here. And then we have the last one. Let's take this off and then just add another one of this so that we can pick a darker version. I think this is fine. So we are done with the rim. Let's deal with the panel. So for that, we still go into our gradient panel tool, and then we pick the default white and black that has already been provided. So we don't need black, because for the silver we will need white and gray. So you just add a gray slider here, drag it to the left, to the right, sorry, create another one, and then drag this one to the right, to the left, and then the white slider should be in the middle. Let's go to the question and check. It says the panel has a silver gradient fill. It must appear dark, light, dark. So we have dark, light, dark. It must be slightly off center like this. So it means our white must be, or the light must be somewhere to the right. All outlines must be thin and black. So let's quickly get that done. Drag this a little bit to the right. I think that's cool. And let's deal with the outlines as well. So the outlines, which we have switched off earlier, now we switch them on. So this is an outline of 1 point, and since they are saying 10, we can go down further and select at least 0.5 and do the same thing for the rim. Now this shade looks a bit broader than what we have drawn, so all we need to do is, or I think this, our shade looks a bit taller, so all we need to do is select everything and then drag from the bottom up a little bit so that it's almost as per. The next thing we are going to create is the stats. But before creating the stats, let's create the shadow. And you are advised to save your work, even if it's not in the format you've been required to save it in. Save it in the Illustrator format so that you can later, in case anything happens, you can later open it again and then just continue working. So to create a shadow, I'm going to select the rim, this one, and go to edit, copy, and then edit, paste and back. I'm going to move it slightly to the right so that we can all see it. And I'm going to take off the outline and change the color to dark gray. Next, I'm going to go into effects at the top and select blur, and from the side menu I select Gaussian blur. So I'll click on the preview box so that I have a preview of how the shadow will look like, and then I'm going to increase the radius a bit to say 20. I think 20 is okay, and I click OK. Let's have a look at how it looks here. So with this I can resize it a bit, bring this one down and move it up a bit. I think we are good to go, and to the right, just using the arrow keys. Now let's create the stats. The stats are actually made of an ellipse with a radial gradient, and it explains here that each stat has a doomed appearance created with a gold gradient fill as shown. So using the ellipse tool and gradient fill, I'm going to create the stat. So I'm going to reposition the gradient to the bottom left corner as it appears here by choosing the gradient tool or typing G, this gradient tool here. You see this slider showing up, so you click, when you see the black arrow, click and then just bring it to the bottom left corner, not completely, like this. Then we can reduce the size like this and increase it a bit so that it blends well. I think this is okay. So we are going to reduce the size so that it fits into our shield, and let's count the number of rims or studs that we have. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. There are 10 in all. So I'm going to quickly arrange them as they appear here. So to duplicate a stud, what I did was I held down Shift and Alt whilst the object is selected, and then just dragged to the side. Shift and Alt. So we are done with the stats as well, and at this point I'll ask you to save your work, and then let's go back to the question paper. Now it says save the image in SVG or scalable vector graphics format as shield _1_ followed by your center number _ candidate number. I'm going to use the example that has been given here to save this work. So I'm going to copy it. So I'll go into File, Save As. Then I'm going to copy, I've copied the name already, I'm going to paste it in this portion, and I'm going to change the Save As type to this version, Scalable Vector Graphics, and I'll say Save. I'm going to leave everything as it is and click OK. Okay, so for the last part of task 1, we are going to create an image of a lightning bolt to match this shape, the shape that is showing here on my right. It has a thin blue outline. You should take note of that. and a white to orange gradient fill. So in this case, we've been given the two colors that make up the gradients. You're supposed to save this in a scalable vector graphics as well, with bold underscore your center number and your candidate number. Once again, I implore you to be saving your work frequently so that you don't lose anything. So we're going to go back before then. After that, then we are going to add the bolt to the shield that we've created and then save that as shield underscore 2. And after that, then we are going to export it as a bitmap with a transparent background named shield underscore 3 with your candidate and center details as well. And that will do it for task 1. Okay, so for the lightning bolts, I'm going to create a new layer in aside what we've created. So to do that, I'm going to go to the bottom right corner down here and click on this icon, and then I have a new layer. So with that, I can hide the shield layer. Let me rename it shield and rename this one bolt. So I'm going to pick my pen tool, but before that I'm going to create the gradient. So I'm just going to create a swatch just by drawing a rectangle. A swatch is just like a color picker or a color guide. So we are going to have a gradient of white and orange or light orange. Let's quickly take a look. White to orange. Yeah, it says white to orange. So go to my gradient and change this to white, and then this portion, double click and I select orange. This time around, the gradient type is not going to be radial, it's going to be linear. And looking at the shape here, you realize that the angle is from white at the top down to the orange. So the angle will be minus 90 degrees. So we have our swatch aside, and then now we can pick our pen tool and make sure our outline that we've switched off is now blue. So I'm going to try and sketch what we have here. It might not be as perfect as this, but as close to it is better than no attempt at all. So I'm going to try my hands on the bolt. And lightning bolt, sorry. Yeah, so this is what I got. This is just a rough look of what. So yeah, it looks quite different. It looks quite smaller at the top and quite bigger below. So I'm going to try and replicate that. To readjust that, I will not need to delete and start all over. All I'll need to do is pick the direct selection tool, and let's zoom in on our work a bit, and then we see what we can do. Now with my direct selection tool selected, I just need to drag and select the corners that I want readjusted. So let's say I want to just readjust this corner, readjust this, can bring this down a bit. Readjust this corner. Any corner I want, I just drag and select the area. This angle is a bit off, so let me readjust it. Let's check again. I'm going to adjust the angle, tilt the angles of the corners a bit, just a little bit. I think I'm okay with this. So let me zoom out again and bring back my shield. Now I'm going to lock my shield down so that when I'm moving the bolt, it doesn't move the shield as well. And I'm going to resize the bolt so that it fits into the shield. Let's see how big. Okay, yeah, not so huge. I think that is just right. Now we can take off our swatch that we used. We don't need it again. And let's see what the next task is. Okay, so here it says save the image in a scalable vector graphics format as bolt, which we didn't do. So let's go back and see how we can get that done. So in this case, all you need to do is, since you already have the bolt and the shield, you just switch off the shield like this. All you have is the shield, and then go to File and Save As. And this time around, I'm going to just change the shield I have here to bolt. My center number is there, and then my canvas. The bolt doesn't have _1, so it's just take the _1 off and save. Click OK. I'm going to do some more saving. So match the position and proportions carefully, which we've already done. And save the image that we've gotten as scalable vector graphics as shield 2. Okay, so we're going to do another SVG saving. So this time around, we show the shield, File, Save As. I'm just going to pick the shield 1 and then change the number to 2 and save. So the last one, we will need a bitmap with a transparent background. So for that, we are going to go to File, Export, and then we select Export as PNG, which always results in a transparent background. Portable network graphics. and this time around the shield underscore number is going to be 3, your center number and your candidate number and your center number remains the same, and then export. I'm going to have this option here. You can leave the resolution on 72 and make sure the background color here is not white or black but it's transparent, and then you click OK. So that does it for task 1. And in the next part, we are going to deal with the animation and do task 2. But before then, you always have to make sure your folder contains everything that is required of this test. So let's go into the folder I have created and then let's check. Okay, so in my May June folder, I've named my folder May June. I have 4 items so far. I have shield 1, shield 2, shield 3, and then the bolt. So all these items you've saved carry marks, and then you have to make sure you get everything right. But as I said, you can also save the Illustrator file, the AI file, so that in case of any eventuality, you can just refer to it and then continue working. Thank you for staying with me for this tutorial. Hope to see you in part 2.